Well, I met Doc Watson's nephew.
Nice.
Yeah, we were at a show. This show was in Knoxville, Tennessee. You know what it is about our show? It's that people have no idea what the fuck's going on until it happens. And then they're still kind of like, I like this and I don't know why. Because it's like what if
accurate.
James Brown was the lead singer for Motorhead? It's like all this clash, it just comes out, and it's like, and you're like, wow, it is. It's almost like watching one of those mashups on YouTube of like James Brown and Motorhead. You know, and of course we love Ronnie James Dio and Ramones and forget it. If you were to look at the whole thing, prog rock like King Crimson, I forget it. Yeah. That's the thing, or even in bands like Macabre from Chicago, death metal bands like that, Monochromatic Black from Long Island, or yeah, bands that we were playing with at the Carolina Chainsaw Massacre.
I went for Nuclear Assault. That's the band I was most familiar with.
Yes, of course.
I saw them my first concert I ever went to see.
And wow, what an impressive band. I mean, I love the contrast between the singers, like this tiny but mighty guy, and then it's the bass player is that big tall guy, right? Yeah. Amazing kind of chemistry and energy. And I know, yeah, you can see they've produced years and years and years of amazing music, and so many diehard fans. You know,
good timing.
So they're leaders of that movement, without a doubt.
Yeah, Lilker, the tall guy, is in Anthrax original.
Oh, is that the deal? I got to meet Anthrax just recently. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that was
I met
big
them
crossover
at Connecticut Horror Fest of all places. Yeah, they happened to be there. Yeah.
Get around.
Scott and
well, Shelby's from Earl Scruggs. Shelby, he's a Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh yeah, Beverly Hillbillies theme.
That's his hometown.
Where?
Shelby.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who?
Beverly Hillbillies theme song.
Who wrote that?
Theme song.
Who wrote that?
Flat and Scruggs. Yeah, Earl Scruggs.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
there's a museum.
When I worked at Tower Records, I was introduced to that music, and we often listened to that in the van, to tell you the truth.
I went to Tower Records.
Yeah, Flat and Scruggs.
In New York City?
Yeah, that one.
I went there once, a long time
ago. That was
ago.
Keith Richards' building, as a matter of fact, on 4th Street in the Village, not far from New York University.
Ari,
I
know you're
I just get a veggie sub.
If you're doing subs, it's just like a vegetable only, no meat.
Oh, I'll get wheat bread if that's an option. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, dude.
You know, like he was saying, we have a musical kind of history, and so does the area around here. And I got a thing called VeganLinked, and I hadn't really mixed him into the equation until this here situation, because he's musically inclined in such a way that I thought it would be pretty cosmic, you know?
Yeah.
So like, this is Stu.
Stu,
Ari.
how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, and I hope you are as well. I enjoyed y'all set at the Carolina Chainsaw Massacre a lot. That was my first exposure to the band. But,
Thank you. Are we started yet? Not yet.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, 3, 2, 1, we've started?
Yeah, just whenever, man.
Stu, how are you?
Hi, Ari.
What a beautiful place we're at here. Haunted Pyramids, man.
Isn't it?
Look at this spectacular, horrific, hellacious, absolutely amazing. They've got a speedboat here. I wonder who that is. Hopefully it's some of those camp counselors. Mama would want to get in on that party. Mama Voorhees. Do you know that, I know we're on VeganLinked. That's VeganLinked, everybody. And you'd be interested to know that the actress, Betsy Palmer, who played Pamela Voorhees in Friday the 13th, we had much in common. Not only did she share the same birth date as my mother, Rita Lehman, November 1st, in fact, the day after Halloween, But Betsy was a great cook, and she was a vegetarian. And perhaps not a strict vegan, but absolutely a vegetarian, I think, all of her life. She had an amazing townhouse right next to Central Park. And yeah, where she had a grand piano, and she loved to listen to the radio, and she also was a great cook. And so, for instance, the first time I met Betsy Palmer, talking about this great vegetarian lady, was at an event at the Meadowlands, and there was thousands of people there, and I was like blown away. And they said, "Here, go in this room," and you know, Kane Hodder was there, and Tom Savini was there, and it was at the Meadowlands. There was, oh my God, it was like first event I ever did. And it's like, go in here, and I looked across there, and there she was, Betsy Palmer, with her sweater on and everything. You know, Mom of
In
Warriors.
character, yeah.
Like, absolutely. This tells you a lot about her. I just went across the room, and I said, "Mama." And she looks at me, and she just gave me the nicest hug. She just gave me the nicest hug. Then she put her hands on my shoulders and looked me dead in the eyes, and she said, "Now who the fuck are you?" And I said, "Oh, I know you couldn't recognize me, but I'm Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees from Friday the 3rd. Oh my gosh," she said, "give me another." So she gave me another hug. And
It's classic.
so we became friends. She really, really kind of took me under her wing. We hit it off, maybe because she had the same astrology as my mom. I don't know, who knows? But she just, it's that Scorpios, they just bring the best out of people. And she brought the best out of people. She was amazing with fans when she was a guest. You know, she would have these lines, and just, she would talk to people. At that event, I remember this, you know, we were in New Jersey, and there was this big kind of, you know, "Hey, how you doing? I'm a big fan of Friday the 13th. This guy was huge. He had a leather jacket on. He had this big scar going from his ear, you know, like this big." He was like, very, very nice guy. He said, "I just want to say, you know, really appreciate you being here." And I was like, oh my God, you know, and I signed it. And then, so he goes over to Betsy's table, and she just looks up at him. She goes, "My, what a lovely scar. May I touch it?" And she reaches out and caresses the scar on his face. And the guy just melted.
Wow.
He just melted. He was like, I've been a fan for so long, and I've always wanted to meet you." And it was like, and I realized in that moment that, you know, the movie that we were in was wonderful and amazing and terrifying.
That
and
was my perspective.
a classic,
Yeah.
classic movie. But in that moment, she was present in that moment. She wasn't living in the past or you know, she was in the present moment as an entertainer. She was, and if you look at now, you look at bands like Ice Nine Kills or Twisted or what First Jason's working on to do, and which is this fan interaction thing, being a part of what we're doing. And she was already doing that. You know,
Yeah.
she was ahead of her time.
I'm so glad you mentioned her. That thought had been on my mind about her character because I read a little bit about her, and you'd never know all those things from the movie necessarily.
Yeah, no,
you know, because
definitely.
you see her as this psycho, you know, basically, you know.
Oh, what a contrast. Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Good
You know,
point. Yeah.
so- and then she was like a model
She was
and
nothing like, yeah,
beautiful person,
correct. Oh,
right.
she was a hot,
Yeah,
a
right on.
hot item in her day. She
Yeah.
dated James Dean. She
Right.
lived with James
Right,
James
yeah.
Dean for 2 months. She was quite the hottie. You know, I mean, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me mentioning, you know, Marlon Brando and all these great actors, and you know, she was very sought after. And what she was great at, man, is she could make people laugh until they like piss their pants. She would come out, I would be like dressed like this, like in my metal stuff, and she would have her little sweater looking like the old lady trying to be all like, and she would just start making penis jokes. She would just be like, "Was the water cold there, Ari?" You know, I mean, no, I mean, that was her thing. And anyway, I just love being around her. And I think elevated Friday the 13th. Now, Adrienne King, the star of Friday the 13th, also brought her A game and was just amazing at looking scared, like when she's in the closet there waiting for Mama, and she's just got the, and then Betsy, it's the door breaks through with the axe, look through, almost kind of like a movie that was made the same year, huh? The Shining.
Well, yeah. Now that you mention
The
it,
same year,
yeah,
they did the same kind of thing. Who did it better? I don't know. You ask yourself. But I love the way that Betsy Palmer did that scene, that wonderful expression on her face. And
She made a reprise in the to Adrienne King.
yes,
Yeah, so she was
not as ceremonial.
not too long.
It's kind of a different.
short.
If you look at her role
part,
in the first Friday the 13th, it's glorious, and especially at the beginning where she has these scenes with Mr. Christie, and he says what a good painter she is, and because she's actually a painter. I don't know if you knew this, but Adrienne King is a fine artist. She actually lives in wine country in Oregon, where she collaborates with a vineyard that produces amazing wines, and they all have her artwork on their labels.
Some of their
Both of them,
character
and
was-
Kevin Bacon was in this movie.
Yeah, I was gonna
all these
mention that.
people brought. You look at all the actors, but there was something about Betsy's performance in the sense that you could tell. I mean, what you said. She was always the act. She was never going to be the villain in the movie. So you assumed she wasn't the villain, and then, but then she had in her mind a storyline that was not included in the script itself, where she said, "Oh, why is Pamela doing this, and what is the reason for her angst and for her terrible, terrible, destructive, what you could call." Righteous vengeance gone horribly awry.
You were the cause.
Yeah, Ari was the reason.
Yeah. Well, fine performance on your part. I was, as a viewer, as a youngster, and even if I had watched it now, it was startled. Everyone was, and you told me a bit about how you had to perform that role, being underwater and just keeping everybody in suspense.
Well, I mean, in comparison with all these fine actors, I was a bit more of a child stunt man, which is something to be proud of too.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of kids would like to be a stunt man.
Absolutely.
And I got to work with Tom Savini, and I got to work with Tasso Stavrakis, who was his collaborator, and I got to work with the lighting people, Barry Abrams, who was the director of photography, and then getting to just be part of the legacy is amazing. But as far as the process goes, it was all Tom Savini's concept, like from beginning to end. And even that final scene, really, where he saw, wow, I have this opportunity now to go to the next level with this monster that I've created. And see, I think the Friday the 13th has this wonderful balance of where you sympathize with the monster a little bit, i.e. like in the werewolf or the Wolfman character, where there's that little, or Frankenstein's monster, where you do, like in the werewolf or the Wolfman, especially the Oliver Reed version, Curse of the Werewolf, the Hammer film, he doesn't want to be the werewolf. He's like, in fact, Oliver Reed is looking at the camera at the beginning. The tears are just coming down, and they actually did that by, irrigating his eyes, and he kept his eyes open, and the tears are coming down because he's inside. It's just the moon changes, and you're like, he becomes the werewolf, and the little gypsy lady can't help it. So it's that's kind of the dichotomy of, does Jason want to be a monster? Or is it something he feels that he must do, that his mother had to? It's that righteous vengeance gone horribly wrong. Yeah.
You had mentioned when I met you at the Massacre Festival, I think, that you had some input into the storyline, even with the dream sequence being. Right.
Well, thank you. You mean the Carolina Chainsaw Massacre?
The Carolina Chainsaw
That was
Massacre.
one of the most incredible life changing experiences for me. I have to admit, absolutely, absolutely complete game changer as far as myself, because this gate keeper, as you might say, or wizard, or you might say Renaissance man of metal, John McEntee, who comes from this area, if I'm not wrong, because he did the event here, the Carolina Chainsaw Massacre. John and Yo-Yo McEntee are
They organized the event?
the organizers of
Yeah,
the event.
okay.
Thank you. The organizers of the event, and
Such
but
great people.
John McEntee is the lead singer of Incantation.
Incantation,
And
great name.
Incantation, I don't even know how to explain or express in words what a force of music they are.
It's true. And
yeah.
he's a warm person, and then you see his persona when he hits the stage, his voice, his guitar playing, and everything. It's just
Absolutely.
so art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
really
you know,
amazing.
I noticed even like his stage presence is absolutely charismatic, and then he was just doing all the nuts and bolts stuff of the convention.
As an attendee, I didn't know all that.
He was
But I
so
met him, very
wise,
personable.
like you could see he had the forethought to his responses when you talk with him. Like he had thought it out, and sometimes when you get to events and it just a clusterfuck, but that's not at all what this was. As a matter of fact, I like that what they call the Gaia hypothesis, that the energy that runs through a system serves to organize that system. You look at how much energy is there when you had nuclear assault, demolition hammer, deceased, incantation. I mean, forget it. It just goes on and on and on.
Nasty Savage.
Nasty
Yeah,
Savage.
I think you guys played right before.
First
and,
Jason.
Yeah, first Jason.
And then
That's awesome.
the fact that they said, okay, we're going to give First Jason this chance. We're going to give First Jason this opportunity. And I got up on stage with a keytar.
I didn't know what to expect.
A keytar.
I had
bro.
no idea what to expect.
And that's
It
what
was
I think
awesome.
the response was, is there was a lot of people who were looking up with my keytar. Now, mind you, my keytar goes through a metal zone pedal.
Yes, it does.
So that's changing, but no one expected that. So it's like playing thunder with your fingertips. So long story short, we were warmly received. We got such a nice response from the crowd, such a wonderful response from the crowd. And John even went up and posted some wonderful things. And so I just went to see Incantation with Goat Whore at Reggie's in Chicago. The first night when they played outdoors and Deceased played, an Incantation set was absolutely beyond mesmerizing, hypnotic. It just, that feeling of complete wonder,
It's hard to put into words. You're right.
it really
Yeah.
is.
I know the next day I was exhausted from that. I'm an older guy,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was there for the whole
But
thing.
you were ready
pretty
for
much.
more. You could see
But
some of the people in
I
the
was-
mosh pit, and they were all bruised up. And they're like, "Come on, let's go."
I survived it, and it was fun. I hope that
I steer clear of the mosh pit. I'm with the guy in the back who's like pushing them back in the mosh pit.
It was so
And then
loud.
of course they say, "Oh, there's little Jason. Let's give him a little," So they come and give me an obligatory mosh. There's a bit of a mosh, and I'm all into it. I was there at CBGB's, man. I was blessed with being friends with Dave Insurgent, who was the lead singer of Reagan Youth when I was at NYU. He was my buddy, and so he would come and check out jazz stuff. And so he was like, "You got to come over to CBGB's and check out this stuff." And so I remember, and I got to see
yeah.
Bad Brains, and I got to see Dead Kennedys, and I got to see White Zombie, but everybody. It was all about Bad Brains in New York at that time.
Yeah.
And
Did any of that influence you?
transforming? And they had that reggae punk thing, right? And Reagan Youth, like he had dreads. Dave had dreads. Yeah. And so we had a lot of respect for that reggae thing. So when I was done with school, what happened with me was this: that I went into the world music scene at first.
Tough Gong Records.
That's right. I got Tough Gong. Thank you. Tough Gong is the label that was Bob Marley's label, straight up, and Interscope Records as well. And the way I got to work for them was because, okay, I was, you know, a musician in New York, out for hire basically to play keyboards and sing. But I also was friends with these taxi drivers from Nigeria who were just happened to be my friends because I lived in Brooklyn and, you know, whatever. So one day I get this call, Ari, you have to come down, man. There's this guy, he's here from Nigeria. We want to bring you over there. Come on, get over. So my friend Nelson brought me over to this rehearsal, this audition. And then it's this artist, Majek Fashek from Nigeria, okay, who people can check out. He was like, Interscope signed him because he was like Jimi Hendrix meets Bob Marley. See, I love these mashups. But, you know, Jimi Hendrix meets Bob Marley. And he had some famous songs like Send Down the Rain. The album called Spirit of Love was actually produced by Little Steve Van Zandt, you know, from Bruce Springsteen band and from The Sopranos. And it was very, very exciting. I got to perform at like the Greek Theater in LA, you know, tens of thousands of people, and opening for like Maxi Priest and Rita Marley and big names. I got to travel to Africa. I got to go to Ivory Coast as like, you know, the only little American guy in the place.
Horror movie veteran.
Yeah, no, they didn't. This is the wild thing, is that at that time, nobody ever brought up the fact that I was Jason Voorhees. At that time, it wasn't, like, you know, now, horror is very mainstream. And at that time, it was kind of taboo.
Right, yeah.
And it was all about, yeah, man, peace and love, world beat. It was the 90s, you know. Things were pretty good, actually. There was a lot of cultural integration. There was a lot of people open and listening to different sounds. You look at like Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros and stuff like that was happening. You know, the guy from The Clash was playing reggae and African music and Santana and forget it. So many things. The reggae scene at that time was so strong. Bands like Steel Pulse. I got to open for Steel Pulse in Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and then coming back to America, you know, things changed with the world music scene after 9/11. Because 9/11, boom, it was like different world. It was even that part of the city that we did all our shows in. What ended up happening was I moved to Chicago. I was there and I received a letter online. It said, "Did you sign this photo?" And I said, "What do you mean did I sign this photo?" And they said, "Yeah, this photo, it's aren't you Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th? And I'm like, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "Well, someone just sold me this for $50 on eBay." So I said, "Wait a second here." And long story short, someone was forging my autograph. And we found out, and they were selling my forged autograph. And so, but that's how it led to the Fangoria convention, because that was just before that happened. It dawned on me, wow, people want to buy my autograph.
People are interested.
I didn't realize that. And then I learned about the whole world of horror conventions and everything. So I'm at that same horror convention where I met Betsy Palmer, but I have like my world beat music, you know, CDs or cassettes or whatever we had at the time. And I remember some of these metalheads were like, you know, I don't usually listen to reggae, but this is pretty good, you know? And then I was like, why do I have to, you know, just hit them where they live? You know, they love metal.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a band called The Independents from, I think they're from Myrtle Beach or Spartanburg, South Carolina area.
It sounds very
Florence,
familiar.
South Carolina. And they're a ska metal horror band.
There you go.
They're now defunct, but they were around in '91. They started.
I love that. See, there you go. That's like
Joey Ramone
Mephistopheles.
produced some of their stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
The
same with
Independents.
the Independents from
Well, I've
Florence,
got
South
it.
Carolina.
I recall that, and I should know more about it, clearly.
Yeah, I think they're maybe not doing so much these days, but they were around for a long time.
Well, that doesn't matter. It sounds like
they were a
something
little
I
ahead of
should
their
know
time,
about.
probably. Yeah, I thought
like
you might
akin to the
enjoy them.
Mescaleros at that time. Yeah. But so the opportunities for me, I was in Chicago. My wife and I moved to Chicago. At first, I started like doing like Misfits covers and Dead Kennedys covers and Danzig covers. I would sing Mother and hold up the head of Mama Voorhees and stuff like that. And then a very wise person who's the bass player in Macabre, which is an amazing band that everybody should know about. Macabre from Chicago is one of the first murder metal bands, death metal bands, one of the first bands ever to use double bass drum on an entire album. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
They should be at Carolina Chainsaw Massacre, or maybe they're considered more of a death metal than thrash.
Absolutely.
I don't know about all those things.
I would like to say I'm familiar with them, but I'm really not, so I'll have to check them
Well,
out.
they had a hiatus for a minute because, whatever reasons, and now they're back in full force, and they have amazing. Their latest album is called Carnival of Killers, and it's great, and all their music is great. But the bass player, he's called Nefarious, so he was actually kind of gigging with us because he was making a little money with us and doing anything. But he said to me, "Hey, Ari, you don't need to do these covers. You should just do your original songs. Jason Never Dies, Jason Is Watching, Machete Is My Friend." And he says, "You need to play keyboard too." And I was like, So what happened? It was a crazy thing. One day, our guitar player couldn't show up, I think. I was at a horror convention, and I saw one of these vendors had these big cosplay swords for sale. And I thought, And what I did, I ended up duct taping a synthesizer to a giant cosplay sword. Like this one was like 8 feet long.
I saw that in a video.
Yeah.
That's
One of these huge, so it was like so out there, so crazy, and people love this. And so, and at first I did it as a joke because we didn't have a bass player that day, but Chuck was like, that's what you need to do. And I was like, really? He's like, stop doing this, do that. And then, Macabre got back together. He was gone, but still, and everybody should watch what they're doing because it's an amazing band. Then other influences came in, punk, metal. I just started to do more shows and started listening to bands like, Johnny Vomit in Chicago, Maggot Twat out of Chicago. These are Chicago bands that I got to kind of bounce around with. And, bands like, the whole Fort Wayne horror punk scene, Grave Robber, B-Movie Monsters, that whole scene.
A lot of good music out there.
Yeah, playing at the Melody Inn. Okay, so flash forward to today, we headlined the last punk rock night at Melody Inn. Packed house, blew the roof off the sucker. So,
yeah, I'd say from seeing you live, you do put on a hell of a show. It's a lot of fun, and your songs are
thank you for saying
filled with humor and like social commentary. There's a lot of depth to your music, the performance, the musical abilities, and all that. It's just really, really entertaining.
Well, thank you for that insight. Yeah, I think there is some inherent humor in somebody of my size, being so like, all kneel, I speak in steel, this is the seventh seal I wield on battlefield, my wrath will be revealed, as opposed to like when I did world music and it was all like, oh, here's this short guy with long hair and he's like, peace and love, everybody.
I wish I could get your lyrics for a lot of your songs because I try to make them out, and the chorus is real catchy. Voice is the name.
Family first, blood is thicker than water.
Blood is thicker than water.
It's thicker than water.
I'm the worst at lyrics. I'm like
a legacy
singing along.
of brutality. Voorhees is the name. That's the one we get the audience to sing.
It's great. Everyone sings along.
I'm so gratified when people know our lyrics and sing them back to us. That is one of the most amazing things. I can't even begin to tell you how much that means to me as a person. Deeply, deeply.
Well, I'm a new fan. I'm going to follow what you're doing. And back to the Friday the 13th movie.
Yes.
There was a scene, Jeff had mentioned it, about where the camp counselors are cooking. Kevin Bacon is...
I know, that's not vegan. Kevin Bacon.
He says, who likes them rare?
Vegan bacon.
And they go on and talk about...
cooking and stuff.
The stuff looks like dead animals. And
Sure.
And yeah.
Some little riff there, yeah.
I'm making salad. You want me to go ahead and make some for everybody?
Oh, that'd be great. I think we've got some hamburger in there,
None
too.
for me, thank you. But there are apples. You know how to make apple pie?
Who likes them rare?
Me.
How can you guys eat that stuff? It looks like dead animals.
Dead animals, that's the old counselors. You cannibals!
If you would mix all this stuff right, you'd get all the protein you need.
So, did any of that influence you in your vegetarian diet?
I was vegetarian on the set of Friday the 13th.
Were you really? Okay,
At
so
age
that's
14. I was already a vegetarian. Certainly not a vegan, because back then, I don't know,
Were any of the
maybe
other
you
pe-
escaped this, but being a vegetarian back then meant like grilled cheese sandwiches every day, you know, macaroni and cheese every day.
Yeah.
Way too much cheese, that's for sure. But I was really good at you know, maintaining, I didn't eat meat at school, lunches, on the set of Friday the 13th. I wasn't the only vegetarian there, if I remember correctly. There was others, so there was vegetarian food available. But it was straight up, we were in a summer camp, so most of the people were just eating, you know, hot dogs and hamburgers and whatever. So of course there was a lot of jokes about, you know, what they're eating. And, you know, at the camp today, they still do the cookout thing, and then they have the vegan stuff. So I was like, you know, and they got those frozen burgers, and they just throw them on. I'm like, oh no, come on, guys, you're really gonna do that? Not Tom, but Betsy Palmer, yes. Adrienne King leans towards vegetarianism. Maybe sometimes, you know, she's even vegan at times. But Betsy Palmer famously did not eat meat, and also I think she was famous for her eggplant parmesan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And she had a lovely townhouse, and she would cook for people, and just one of the most amazing people. And but on the set, there was a lot of jokes and a lot of fun. And Kevin Bacon was actually very nice to me.
I was wondering,
Harry, he was very cool. You know, like, you know,
There's a whole
he
thing
was
with
like, well,
him,
here's
so-
a kid on the set. You know, maybe it'd be nice to say, hey, Ari, how you doing? Like, he would always make a point to say hi and make me know that I wasn't just a prop.
Yeah.
Now,
a bit
some of the other
part,
actors were more, you know, worried about doing their job, and you know, because I'm not saying they were purposely being aloof, but you know, when you're a little kid, you're just sitting like, wow, I'm just sitting here, you know. It's like,
Got it made.
you know who's talking to me, you know, totally do. You know, everyone in the entertainment business knows there's a lot of waiting around. Like, look at these, we can see right here, these great haunters, and they're waiting around. That's what it's about, there's waiting around.
Killing time. Yeah.
And that's one thing I have to admit that turned me off to being in the movie business. And I certainly couldn't do television, because that's waiting around in a freezing set all the time. And oh my God, in both of them, if you leave the set to pee, where'd you go? It's like, so there's no walking away to smoke weed all the time like I do. That can't be done. All I know is, and I'll tell you, I did do that on the set of Friday the 13th. Famously, Tom Savini, as you mentioned, he likes to mention that I brought weed to the set of Friday the 13th, which wasn't the drug of choice on the set of Friday the 13th. And they were in there. It was, you know, the 80s or 79, but they were, you know. But I did bring some weed and hash and to the set, and yes, but of course there was a lot of hard work. We did a lot of hard work, so we wouldn't be, you know. There was a famous moment. Okay, they had put on my makeup, and there was a Japanese photographer on the set. So Tom said, I don't want the photographer to see her makeup. Okay, so you got to try to hide from this photographer. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, you know, I took a little weed with me and went out in the woods, right? I'm, you know, kind of behind a tree, and you know this thing where you kind of look like this, click, swear to God. But it looks like, all you can see, it looks like little Jason's hiding behind a tree. And they put this picture in the Japanese press. But they didn't know behind the tree I was rolling a joint.
Now that's funny.
You can find this picture online. It's like, I'm just leaning over. And they actually, it's funny as hell, because I have that expression of like, uh-oh. And it's perfect for like little Jason. Someone saw me. But yeah. So there was a lot of fun, but also a lot of hard work. But then once the work was done, Sean Cunningham, a very good director, Very good director. Never raised his voice, but you could always tell what he wanted and needed to keep the keep to the timeline and make sure that we did everything right. And you know, there is the story of how the actual final scene was done. Do you want to know that part?
Sure, yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole thing there is wonderful Adrian, vegetarian and painter and everything, and they wanted to actually get a jump out of her, a scare. John decided he wasn't going to say action on the scene, but he didn't happen to tell her or Tom Savini, but he told me. So he says to me, Ari, the cameras are rolling. Okay, and she hadn't seen my makeup, and so I kept it so that the back of my, and she wasn't even really focused on that. She's looking at the director. He goes, go out into the water there. Okay, they're all in place. And you're not going to be able to hear me say action because you'll be underwater. So just look up and wait for the bubbles to clear. That's action. Okay. You're the director on this scene, Ari. I was like, I'm the director? I'm the director. Okay, so I go out in the water and I'm thinking, how am I going to play this? Am I just going to kind of flop over the boat, kind of like the cadaver in Dementia 13 did? Okay, famous movie. But I'm like, nah, bitch killed my mom. And I grab the thing and I'm like, I come out of the thing and I realize this nice lady that I've never met before has no idea. And and she just looks up, her face just contorts in absolute. I'm like, even my chest, I was like, what have I done? And then she grabs my arm, she says, get the fuck off of me. And she falls out the front of the boat, poor
It tumbles,
thing.
right? Yeah.
So they dried her up really quick. They're all looking at me, and I'm like, and I'm looking at Sean like, but he doesn't want her to know. So she actually thought that I had jumped the gun, that I'd come out before action, and that the whole thing had been fucked up.
Yeah, but not the case.
And so I sit here, and I couldn't tell her, no, I didn't fuck up. And I'm looking at Sean, and he's like, please don't manhandle our actress this time. He said that in front of everyone. We're going to do the take again. And so that's that. So as the take opens of this final scene, you see this medium shot, and you can see it's kind of the yellow foliage, and I'm like this. But then it goes to that close-up in the middle. It's green. Mm-hmm. So that's the first take. And he cut it precisely when her face just goes,
yeah.
That's it. And then it goes, movie magic. And you think about how brief that little moment that he caught. But then again, I hasten to add that, there's many great Jason Voorhees. First of all, we have to mention that two days ago, we just lost Ted White, who was Jason in part 4. And a great, wonderful human being, just an amazing person. John Wayne's stunt double for 17 years, and just an amazing person. And many amazing Jason actors, and they all played Jason for much longer than I was. I mean, Kane Hodder was in there for 4, the great Kane Hodder was 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. But if you were to divide the number of people that I've scared by my screen time, okay.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
It's good. You can hear the scare, the screaming as I mentioned this. That's all of them. The number of people that I've scared, it would be like milliseconds of time.
Yeah.
Somewhere right now in the world, I'm scaring the shit out of someone. There's been, like, Marines have told me that they've been out in Afghanistan and they would all wait because some rookie hadn't seen, you haven't seen Friday the 13th, and he'd like fall out of his bunk and they'd all laugh. So
it never fails to, yeah.
And that's the magic. Okay, that's Sean Cunningham and of course Tom Savini's effects, but of course, and Barry Abrams' photography. Of course, Harry Manfredini's soundtrack.
Yeah, it's very important.
It lulls you into that sense of complacency.
I always wondered as a Black Sabbath fan.
I love Black Sabbath.
Children of the Grave at the very end is a echoey voice appears to say, "Kick, kick, kick, ma, ma." Have you ever noticed that? It is at the very end of Children of the Grave, which is
And what
1971.
year? Oh, wow.
You know, so I always wondered if that's where it came from.
Well, I will
but I
say
don't know.
this, that maybe they had the same effects unit.
Yeah, it was
Because,
similar.
yeah.
More than similar. It's worth
Really?
Yeah, it's
Huh.
pretty close.
I'll
I
go
mean,
check
I don't
that
know.
out.
It could have been an influence.
I
don't
know the song.
Yeah, it's very end. There's the sound effects, echoey. It's there. And there's a few years prior, but
Well, I know
Harry.
Harry Manfredini,
Music.
and he's a very, very just a great person. He's a very, very warm-hearted person. He's a very loving person. He will give soundtrack material to filmmakers for free. He has a library that they can just borrow, like Rising Tension or Total Chaos or whatever moments, minutes of music that he'll give them. His big influence is Eastern European contemporary atonal composers like Grigory Ligeti. Like if you listen to the music in 2001 Space Odyssey, anyway, he's from Eastern Europe and he composes, like what you're hearing there is like the Vienna Boys Choir, but they're all singing like a quarter tone apart and they're singing one note, but what they're singing is one syllable. They're singing a syllable. So this composer was very into like going away from operatic or choral and just having them sing syllables. So Harry was into that. So he went up to the thing and he said, well, I'll just say two syllables. So he's saying the beginning of the word kill and the beginning of the word ma. So he's saying ki, ma. And it comes out as ch, ma. Because of, I think it might have been a tape delay or it might have been a new digital delay, but it was his new delay unit. I don't know. In 1979, it might have been a tape delay or digital. If it was a digital delay unit at that time, it was probably the size of a desk.
Yeah, probably. Wow, amazing.
What an amazing person. I mean, I have to say this one thing, is that, well, I'm sure that Halloween and everyone feels this way about their team, but the people that worked on Friday the 13th were really just such amazing and unique people. Victor Miller, the writer, Sean Cunningham, all the people that went into it, it was like, it wasn't shot in Hollywood, it was shot in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. It brought together East Coast people, it brought together people from Broadway, it brought together television people, it brought together so many different.
That went on to a lot
Although
of
Barry
different things.
Abrams was from Texas. And he liked to quote Kinky Friedman all the time. To me, he would come up and he would tell me like these kind of, filthy Kinky Friedman jokes, which I probably shouldn't repeat. But they were very funny. And we did have so much fun on the set. Like Erwin Keyes, who you might know from the Rob Zombie videos and Rob Zombie films, this big dude. And he would always make jokes. He would always make sure that I was having a good time. And they actually introduced me to a lot of music on the set of Friday the 13th because they had, a pickup truck and they had an 8-track tape player. So they would put on these 8-track tape players. I remember Ramones, also Sex Pistols, Patti Smith, a lot of Patti Smith.
That was what y'all were
I think Dead
into
Kennedys,
at the time.
Bad Brains.
listening
No,
to.
they would say, Ari, sit here and listen to this.
Check it out. Yeah.
Like, I remember Patti Smith. I remember this guy, Braden Lutz. He was one of the lighting guys or sound guy, big dude. He would be like, yeah, listen to this. Boom, and he put in Patti Smith. He wanted me to listen to the whole thing from. And
met
I'm
Patti
sure
Smith
that had
once. That was
Did
an honor.
you?
Yes, I did. I got her autograph. She was nice, very nice to talk to. I mean, she is amazing. But I spent a lot of time talking to Lenny Kay at the bar.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just sitting there talking to him. I'm like, I feel like I know you. He's such a nice guy. And we were just talking, and he's like, well, I play guitar, and I'm like, oh, that was you. And I mean, I didn't know who I was talking to, but it's amazing the experiences that we have.
Oh, I agree, man.
Yeah, that's so
It's
cool.
like that. So when you meet those kind of people, and then they're all of them are still entertainers and constantly doing stuff. So I guess it's not ironic that when such a great group of people came together, they came up with this movie that somehow people love so much. The crazy thing is, you look at this great movie with all its subtleties, like Mama Voorhees is there, and Alice runs up to her. They killed Bill. They killed Ned. Oh, and she hugs her, and she's hugging the killer.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just great.
She was I think, underrated actress in that role. I mean, she scared everybody. She's really good.
Yeah, but you know, when you talk about Betsy, Betsy continued to do theater. If you look at Betsy's career, she did a lot of television. She did these talk shows where she could get people just laughing so hard they had to like cut to commercial because people were falling out, you know. And she did live television with James Dean. Was on Broadway. She did like, I don't know, Gigi, and like, you know, she was on Broadway. I mean, I've been autographed playbills with her, and you know, from Broadway. So, you know, and that was her thing. She said, I guess I could, I don't know if I should say this, but you know, she could see that perhaps I wasn't headed for Hollywood, as it were, not because I you know, just because of who I am, you know, like as a person, that I would choose a different path. Really? And she could see that I was debating about it. She would call me sometimes and give me advice about life. You know, I think I still hear from her sometimes, but she would say, she said, fuck Hollywood. She said, fuck Hollywood. I love to do dinner theater. And I can do whatever I want. I'm not waiting by the phone. Waiting by the phone to play someone's mom, she said. She said, I could do Shakespeare. I could do Waiting for Godot if I any fucking play.
Whatever
and then she would
roles.
do dinner theater. She would do this one called Love Letters, which she would do these long monologues. You memorize everything up until she was in her 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, she just loved life and she knew how to live it.
That's awesome. That's good to celebrate those folks. And
Yeah, and I guess it is a contrast from that.
those
It'll
times.
be easier for you than it was for Jason. Look what you did to him. You never paid any attention.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Right? It's her voice in her head.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. She can't hide. No place to hide. Get her, Mommy. Get her. Kill 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 her.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
very controversial right there. Because when I got there to the set, they handed me this script. It said Alice's Dream. And I said, Sean had told me I get my revenge, right? I said, you told me I get my revenge. Sorry to touch the microphone. I'm so upset. I get my revenge. No, but so it was true. I was like, this isn't a dream. And he said, Ari, people don't exist for 11 years under a pond and then come back. I said, well, do you read comic books? I mean, come on, Swamp Thing, you know?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about, you know? And
Right.
he was like, so Tom Savini.
That's a good comparison, Swamp Thing.
Tom
yeah.
Savini very wisely removed me from the moment. He said, all right, if you were a ghost in a dream, you would have the conviction that you're real. Huh. Okay. So that's how I thought about it, but I thought, no. This is real. This isn't a dream. So I think the fans, and that's what I'm saying, because the fans, they forgot everything. As soon as they saw Jason out of the water, they're like, they forgot Mom. They forgot all the scenes with Kevin Bacon. They forgot, you know, that amazing sex scene where, like, they're doing it in the bunk. Ned is dying.
Yeah.
In the
While
bunk,
it's-
Ned is dying as they're
Yeah.
fucking. And then who else is there? Mama Voorhees is there. She's under the bunk. The whole time they're going at it, having a great time. And it's a very explicit kind of
Yeah,
for the time
yeah.
sex scene. You know,
Absolutely.
people always say, I have to
What
put my
rating
hands
is
over
this?
my eyes or my kid's eyes. See, but then you think, well, was Ned watching? Was Mama Voorhees watching? But that's the point, is Sean Cunning is saying, who else was watching? You were watching.
We have someone watching right
You're
now.
the voyeur. Who's watching?
Black cat just coming out from the woodwork. Yeah. So that reminds me, back to the vegetarian issue, I wanted to ask you.
I am technically a vegan. I was embarrassed as Jeff walked by just when they asked me for the Subway sandwich. I was like, easy on the cheese. And they're like, what kind of cheese? And just as he walked by, I said, pepper jack. Oh, shit. There's Jeff. Fuck.
It's double
Fucking
whammy.
mayo. I said, no mayo. I try to respect cultural differences and everything.
Yeah.
And nowadays, more than ever, you can get vegan food on the road.
That's true.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I picked a good time.
But that's not to say getting Taco Bell vegan or Burger King vegan. Thank you guys at those places. But, you know, I thank you, but I don't know if my stomach does. Because, you know, you get the food and there's no animals in it, but it's not like all of a sudden healthy.
No,
like, that's a
that's
misnomer.
true. That
you
is
want
true.
to eat healthy, you should be eating your rice and your lentils and your potatoes and some salad.
He can tell you all about that, Jeff.
You know what
Good
I'm
does.
saying? And
Whole
I
Foods
carry
and
with me, microwavable rice, microwavable dal, you know, ramen that's vegan, you know, very practically. If there's times when the guys can go and eat, and I say, look, I got to eat, I'll just whip it up in my room. Oh, I have a blend jet, which is a really good thing. It's a blender that you charge like a phone, and it's a little, right? And I like, for like this morning, I had some kiwi fruit, which are pretty portable. So I put some, golden kiwis in there and some protein powder, hemp protein powder. You're beyond that? Yeah. It was vegan protein powder. What now? What's wrong with that? Oh no, it was either pea or hemp, something like that. But I hooked it up. And then I have this other stuff, it's called Kenko. Do you know about these? They're these little, recyclable cellophane packets that are full of freeze-dried fruits and vegetables. And you can make a fruit smoothie, like even if you just take it and put it in a water bottle and shake it up, and it becomes, because it's real fruit.
Nice.
So they have them with, blackberries or mangoes or bananas and you name it, every freaking thing in the book. So you gotta make those, you gotta think ahead. You can vegan hack a lot of menus out there,
It's a little more thought. They put a little more thought into your diet, that kind of thing. Being prepared.
I mean, one thing that we're all experiencing, it's a very real thing on the road. You gotta keep yourself healthy on all levels, and of course, we are what we eat, and I think that everybody knows that, but for us, it's kind of a certain thing in the sense that you have to eat at a certain time. You can't eat right before you go on stage. You can't eat a bunch of food. Like, and people at the bars are always like, Ari, eat these nachos right now, and then go on stage. It's like, yeah, I'll put extra jalapenos. And that's the thing that's getting a little out of hand, if I may say. I mean, let's see what Jeff says about this. Is this vegan bar food trend? So it's like, they'll be like, I made vegan food for you. And I'm like, spectacular, expecting like the old hippie, like it would either be like, I don't know, like they would always made those whole grain pasta spirals with like the tahini sauce on them, and that was the standard hippie thing with veggies, and you get that, or you get like, I don't know, some brown rice and this and that and tofu and that. No, now it's like sloppy Joe. It's like a sloppy Joe, or vegan chili, or what would they give us, like fried, like stuff that you wouldn't eat anyway because you're going on stage. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. We all have to time things properly, and that's a very real thing. And I've seen, for some insight on that, for performers, that performers in the world do time things, and there are escape routes, like at some of the really big theaters, and they have bidets backstage. So if you're like, oh no, Jeff looked up.
I know where this is.
I'm sorry, guys. We're talking about food.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a time.
If you're gonna eat a bunch of vegan sloppy joes, you better have some. You know what I'm saying? You're going on stage in front of people. Please. So yeah, it has to be thought out. Honestly, I take a lot of Chinese herbs. I eat a lot of ginseng. I learned about Chinese herbs at a very young age. because after I got out of NYU and started working in the real world, and before I started working, you know, for Majek and those other, I worked at Angelica's Herbs and Spices, which was one of the biggest culinary and medicinal herbal distributors on the East Coast. And I learned all about that shit, and I used a lot of that. I recommend people learn what herbs are good for them, and don't just learn about them, but eat the fuck out of them. Because there is a pharmacopoeia right in those woods. You could go right in there. Native Americans didn't even have a word for tree. They had a word for, you know, pine, female pine tree in the springtime. Like, that's how specific. And
Poke,
you know, there's
right there, poke.
There
a lot
you
of people
go.
eat poke salad.
Poke
But you have to
salad,
get it when
Annie.
it's you get it when it's young.
Gator
you know?
got a granny. Poke salad, Annie.
A
Come
classic.
on now.
Yeah,
That's
classic.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Please, please, please. But there's pine nuts in those trees too. Fucking expensive ass pine nuts that they'll give you, like, how much for a jar of fucking pine nuts, you know. But beyond that, I mean, you know, if you know where there's golden seal, you know where there's ginseng. Where do they get ginseng? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
I do really, really, really think people should learn a ton about that. And also, yeah, eat vegan and learn again what food is good for you. You know, everybody loves all these things, like all these spicy food trends and all that stuff. I even have 3 hot sauces I saw. You know,
It's a
that's not gonna, you eat tons of that, you're gonna throw your balance off too. You gotta eat food that's balancing and nourishing. And there's time for fun snacks. You know, I think this fake meat thing has gotten out of hand, quite honestly.
the no bones like grain veggie burgers.
Yeah,
I think
there's
the first
plenty.
veggie burger I ever ate was with him. He cooked it in college, like in
Okay.
1998. And
Which
he's like,
one
try
was that?
this.
Was that the sunflower burger? Remember sunflower burgers?
I don't remember. It
Made
might
out
have
of
been.
sunflower seeds?
It might have been.
Those were great. What happened to that? Is sunflower
I thought it
seeds-
was pretty good. You know, he's a good chef. You know, I was like, well,
I'm
nice.
sure.
You know,
Yeah, the story behind that, people, is that I met Jeff at a vegan, little tiny vegan restaurant that I found that Doyle told me about. So I found this little, and Jeff happened to be there. Where was that? Lexington? And they had some great food too. They made me some like Jamaican style curry, coconut, something amazing. You know, they had the nourishment and the fun foods. And you know, and that's the thing I think about veganism too, is that sometimes we'll be like, whoa, look, vegan popcorn shrimp. It's like, just because it's vegan doesn't mean you should just eat that. It's like, well, there's no meat in it, so I'm gonna eat it. It's like, there's no meat in this rock over here. You know, it's like, you need to have a balanced diet that's also based on your constituency. Like, if eating spicy foods is bad for you, don't eat spicy foods. You know, whatever. You know, I tend to think our bodies are smarter than we are. You know, if you look at how advanced our bodies are, how come we're so stupid?
oh, so that reminds me. Have you ever tried a corn smut?
Wait, what is, I just made those vegan corn barbecued ribs
Okay,
in the
now-
air fryer.
Well,
they were delicious.
It's a Mexican delicacy, and I tried it last week. I went to this restaurant, and it was called, it was spelled with an H, but it was pronounced Huitlacoche. Huitlacoche. And it was a small Mexican restaurant. It had
That
some
sounds like
interesting menu.
Aztec.
But it was corn mushrooms. Well, I Googled it, and it was also known as corn smut or raven's excrement.
I see.
So I ate that. And it was actually pretty good.
So wait, these are fungus?
Yes,
They're
it's
kind
like
of fungus.
it's like maize, you know, corn. You know how it turns purple when it gets that mold on it?
Yeah.
It's that. It's like that purple.
I have never
corn.
tried that.
Hey, and it's different, you know. But it agreed with me real well, you know. So hey,
There
what
you go.
can
You
I
never
say? You
know.
But I've been a
There's-
vegetarian 2 years, so I've been trying new things.
I would
man.
say try everything.
Yeah,
Things
right.
named smut, though. It's just
That's what I call it, or raven excrement. I'll show you on Google. I Google. It's so funny.
oh boy.
Or a
So what are you
brain.
watching, corn now?
It kind of looks like a brain. Kind of look like a brain too.
That is. It's
But you'd mentioned Doyle.
Food porn.
a lot of musicians that a punk rock scene, that's kind of a thing too with vegan and vegetarian diet. Like,
What do you mean?
John Joseph from the Cro-Mags has a book out.
Oh yeah.
The evolution of
Oh
Cro-Mag.
yeah, Cro-Mags, yeah.
Also, I think I read that he maybe got it from the Bad Brains, which I didn't realize they were vegetarian.
Sure. Well, no, you know the Cro-Mags now are Krishna consciousness based. They're Krishna. They're not straight edge. They're Krishnas.
Right.
Originally,
yeah.
like the first album is all about Lord Shiva coming and destroying the universe and
Yeah.
yeah.
Evidently, the John Joseph was a monk for a while and all these things. He's got an interesting story to tell. And
Yeah,
and,
I have a Shiva yantra right here on my arm.
Is that what
So
that is?
yeah, I cite Lord Shiva too, and yeah.
I have a Hare Krishna bracelet
There
from
you
Times
go.
Square. That's
There you
kind of
go.
a
Wow.
that, you know how they get you in Times Square when you
Yeah.
walk through. You know,
It's a
puts it on
mama.
my wrist
There
and
you
says
go.
$5, $5. You know,
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
There
And
it
you
is.
kept it.
Brings good luck.
I bet it does. Good karma, baby. That's right.
And
Om Namah Shiva.
Why are you vegetarian?
Why did I become
When-
vegetarian?
when-
What a nice question.
Why
Okay,
did you
so
become a
I
vegetarian?
actually, as I said, I was even vegetarian already on the set of Friday the 13th. So, what was it? Okay, it was two things when I was a kid. One was I was a little bit pudgy, and I didn't want to give up desserts. My first way I did it is that, oh, okay, I'm going to give up desserts. So I gave up desserts, and I lost a lot of weight that way. And I was like, man, I wish I could have a hot fudge brownie. You know, like, because I love desserts. You know, I was like, damn. So then I was like, man, you know. Then someone said to me, you know what? If you just give up meat, you lose a lot of weight. Bam. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, bacon, all that fat. And look at all the fat on chicken. And look at all this fat. And I was like, huh. I was like, I thought sugar made fat. He's like, no, this is going to make you fat, man. So I thought, wow, that's a good idea. Now, at the same time, I was reading T.H. White's Once and Future King series, okay, in which it's about Merlin and King Arthur. And it's the original story of Merlin and King Arthur.
Sounds familiar.
And of course, the way that Merlin teaches King Arthur how to be a great king is he turns him into animals, into various different animals. And those animals, by experiencing life from the perspective of those animals, not people, not any other thing, he turns them into different animals. By experiencing life from the perspective of those different animals, he becomes a great king. So at the end, there's this great battle at the end of time between, of course, Mordred and King Arthur. It's all over because, you know, human beings are being judged. And it's judgment for humankind. I guess it's very Christian theology and all that in there. But the thing is that who's deciding man's fate is a council of animals. So this is the book of Merlin, where these council of animals decide man's fate. So the horses say, well, man often treated us great, like we're a thoroughbred horse, but then, loaded us down with all this weight and kicked us if we didn't go. And then, chickens were like, yeah, thanks, take our eggs every morning, and then just kill us and all that, and, you know, on and on and on. And then, so it was like, the battle is raging, and Mordred is winning. And of course, he's the son of the great witch, Morgan Le Fay, who had sex with King Arthur.
Mordred's his son. Yeah.
And Mordred is his son. So it looks like the destiny is there. So finally, they interview dogs. And dogs say, well, you got to hear this part about human beings. Because sometimes they treat us with just unconditional love. And they just take care of us, and they form a bond with us, which is really, you know, and the other animals say, well, tell us more about that. And they say, look at the length, and they talk about a man who risked his life by going back into a fire for a dog, or saved dogs from drowning in ships, and things like this. And so now King Arthur is finally going to win the battle, and only because of the kindness that we showed towards pets, that humankind is spared. And that's the Book of Merlin. And as a child, that made me think quite a bit. And I was a very spiritual child too. I was way into things like Kabbalah. And now, I study Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, which is a super ancient, system of thought, really, of knowledge. And vegetarianism, as you know, is a big part of Hinduism. And if you really look carefully, all the spiritual teachings, whether you look at Judaism and I'm Jewish, so if you look at being kosher, well, every vegetable and every fruit is kosher. Okay? Every wheat, every grain, every bean is kosher. It's only rules of kashrut only apply to animal products, whether it's shellfish or not eating meat and dairy at the same time, or of course with pork, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, if you look, Buddhists are vegetarian, Hindus are vegetarian again.
It's involved.
And Islam, there's halal, which does not apply to carrots. Every carrot is halal. So, I think there's a lot of insight there.
There is.
There are several decisions I made as a young man for different reasons. I didn't have the parental guidance that maybe I should have, but I made those decisions myself against those of my parents, and they ended up working well for me.
That's awesome.
One of them, and also because now that marijuana is legal, that decision also worked out.
Yeah, very good.
And now that I can walk in to Burger King and be like, give me an Impossible Burger.
Yeah, it's not impossible if they
But
give
it's
it to you.
impossible to digest. That's not my favorite one. The Beyond Burger.
Hardee's had one
Beyond.
for a short while and it went away. I don't know what happened.
Which one?
Hardee's. I
Did
don't know
they
if they
have
have
them?
those around.
I think what happens is they get them and then they're like, well, there's like a flurry of people buying them. And then it dawns on them, if people are vegan, they're probably not coming here.
Yeah, good point.
So
yeah.
it's just guys in bands. It just does. But I'll tell you, last night, I'll tell you something, vegans, and listen up. Last night, I went to the Denny's here in Shelby, North Carolina, and it was so understaffed. And when I tell you there was somebody got kicked out who was sitting at our table. He was so drunk, and the waitress kicked him out, and it was like there was a belligerent. First he was like loudly. First he was loudly comical, and then he was loudly belligerent. And I thought he was a nice guy, but she must have known something about him. So anyway, the point being that she goes out, and then I'm talking to the chef. The chef goes, "You could come back here." The chef let me back in the kitchen where I saw. So what I was doing is, if you want a vegan hack, she says, "Oh, honey, we don't have any Beyond Burgers." And I said, "Salad?" She says, "We haven't had lettuce in months," she told me. So she said, "That's something about the supply chain." She said, "They don't order the Beyond Burgers anymore." Not at every Denny's. Most Denny's have them. Thank you, Denny.
Yeah.
This one. So
Not that one.
So I went back in there, but this is what the guy did. You can vegan hack their skillets, okay? So this guy, so I walked in back, I noticed there was this bain-marie filled with zucchini, with yellow zucchini and green zucchini. So I said to him, "Oh, can you put that in my skillet?" He's like, "Sure." I'm like, "Can you put this in my skillet?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Can you make it spicy?" He's like, "Sure." I'm like, "Do you have rice?" He's like, "I do." And so they brought out this skillet. Like everyone in the band's like looking at me like, what did he
They ought to
make for
run
you?
Denny's
They got
that
like
way.
nachos and like the egg Benedict, the beanies. They ordered beanies. They did. One of them ordered beanies. And they ordered beanies. And they came out
Guess
nice.
which one?
But no, it had the whole grain rice that they got there. Okay. I know this is not that thrilling, guys, but and then red skin potatoes. I asked for extra broccoli, and he hooked it up. It was good. Good.
That's good, yeah.
Put some hot sauce on there.
So is it a ethical thing at all?
Well, I think inherently being vegan, or as vegetarian or vegan as possible, it's what they call Ahinsa, which is the practice of nonviolence. That says Jason Voorhees. But yeah, like what if Jason was like a guru sitting in the woods and you'd be like, "Oh, I can't bend like this." He's like, "I'll help you." No, but what I'm saying is, why do we practice Ahimsa? We have a physical form because of past karmas that we incurred, and therefore we are born in a physical form. That physical form requires nourishment. It requires the capability to digest that nourishment and to eliminate that nourishment. Therefore, we incur more karma. There's no way to have the physical form, which you have because of karma, and then as soon as you open your mouth, you're incurring more karma because you have to eat. And so I've often felt, and I can say this because this is a vegan program, that every time a 5-year-old opens its mouth, God bless the 5-year-old, how many animals have to die? If it's getting chicken fingers, it's getting a bacon cheeseburger, and this is normal for that kid.
True.
How many animals have to die so that that little 5-year-old can have a nosh, which could easily and happily be replaced by delicious vegetables? Like, look at that kid eating corn, okay?
Right on.
Kids love corn. It's corn. It's got the juice. It's everything. Come on. There's no, we've had sad episodes with like George Bush saying broccoli is bad, then that being popular when I fucking love broccoli. Damn it.
I've learned it is delicious cooked, grilled, like
Yeah.
the cooking.
Oh,
of
yeah. And it makes you feel like you're eating tiny trees.
You feel great.
I'm a
yeah.
giant.
Yeah.
I can eat a whole forest.
Yeah.
They have cauliflower. It became so popular. The cauliflower, they make everything out of pizza out of cauliflower. They make cauliflower out of cauliflower now. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it really is. Cauliflower is a versatile. Yeah. Yeah. So it is hand in hand. You are what you eat, kind of.
Well, Ahinsa, it's for karma. Yeah. I think that it increases your punya karma, which is your good karma, and decreases your papa karma, which is negative karma, which we're trying to do. I could elaborate on why, but yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Do you know anybody else that does that?
People that I know who say that they're vegetarian because of their ethical, I think that it goes hand in hand, that the people I know who have chosen vegetarianism are the kind of person. Now, some of them might be great martial artists as well, or, really big people. I know bodybuilders who choose to be vegan and are actors, stunt people, or even if you're not a vegetarian or if you're not a vegan, if once a week you don't eat meat, or one meal, you don't eat, well, you could look at how much positive effect you're having because of, sadly, how damaging the corporate meat industry is. So I think that it would be easier for it to dawn on people, like even a child could understand that. If you say, look, if you were to show them, for instance, like I've seen these big cattle ranches or these big pig farms, it's heartbreaking. I mean, little pigs. I mean, I'm not here in North Carolina to put a damper on whatever industry that they're doing, and that's not where I'm coming at it from. But I'm saying, if we could have an alternative to that and make a thriving industry out of pulling ginseng out of the hills and stuff like that, and who knows whatever other things we could do, I'd rather not bother those little baby pigs who seem so cute.
Curious, like if you know any other like artists in the industry that are.
Well, I could straight up mention.
That
Well, who do I know? Well, Doyle is a big vegan, and him and his wife are very, very vegan activists. And then, of course, Rob Zombie is a vegan, and his wife, Sherry Moon, has a website called Eat Me. And so, oh yeah. I mean, if those aren't two of the biggest leaders on that scene, you could say Rob Zombie is the biggest horror rock entertainer. And, and Doyle is one of the top of punk. And look at those abs. And he's vegan.
Right. And his age.
Serious vegan.
His, work ethic and everything. And
Yeah.
his life.
And he has, you know all about it. He has a protein powder and Monster protein and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I think that was an influence. I found out Jeff Beck was a vegetarian years
Wow.
ago. And I was
I
like,
didn't
well,
know
he's
that.
holding up really good. You know, people were remarking on how
Well, he just
he
did 2
compared.
songs with Ozzy Osbourne.
But then Paul McCartney also, and I didn't know that, but that
That's
was
right.
recent news. You want to be like kind of aspire to be, you know, the best you can be, and then you say, oh, you know, that might help. You know, I'll try that. That's kind of, and
Well, as much as I do feel that it's definitely ethical, one thing that vegans get a bad rap for is being preachy.
right, that's true.
And if we want to affect change, I think that it's very important that we use our wisdom to attract people to saying, okay, maybe 1 meal a day and maybe 1 day a week, and then feeling how it feels, and then through example. Most places now, almost universally, will, if you say, I'd like that dish, like, okay, Panera Bread, they've got tons of stuff all day long. Or you could go to a pizza place and say, I'd like a pizza without any cheese on it. They don't bat an eye. One time I was in like some thick part of Chicago. I went in there and I said, oh, guys, I know. And they said, hey, how you doing? Hey, I said, let me order a pizza without cheese. And then the guy sitting there looks straight up Goomba. He goes, hey, that's how I eat the pizza. He's like, he wants one of your pizzas, Vinny. And I'm like, he's like, we make it with the tomato sauce and the garlic. It's really delicious. We put some basil on there. It's really nice. They call it tomato bread. But I said, but the reason he was doing it was because he had a heart problem. He couldn't digest the pepperoni and the cheese and everything. So there you go. So I think people accept it for health reasons and, you know, move on. You know, you really want to freak any waitress out and say, oh, I'm allergic to meat and cheese. I'm allergic to meat and dairy. Oh, no allergy probably. You know. But bring on the nuts.
And plug like Dairy is Scary, because that's just 5 minutes and it's all anybody ever needs to see on the internet. You know, like 5 minutes, boom, Dairy is Scary.
He made me watch it, and it is well worth watching.
Oh, I haven't seen
That's all
that.
that needs to be said about that.
But you do need to get that King Crimson shirt in the shot over here. Yeah.
No, dairy is scary. No, you're good. You are an advocate, bro, and it's all about learning and about that knowledge. And yeah, we've got to do our best to limit suffering. But now, at this haunted house, we're ready to make people suffer.
Tell us about your band real quick.
First Jason is a horror punk metal project fronted by Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees, from Friday the 13th on his heavy metal keytar, which is played through a Metal Zone pedal and shakes the rafters. We have some amazing players. Tonight we have with us the illustrious bass amp on drums and background vocals. He's an amazing performer from St. Louis. He plays with a lot of bands. We're so happy to have him on board. And subbing for Eddie Machete is Brian, also known as The Beyond, who is going to be here later, and he's a great guitarist, and we're also happy to have him around.
Was he on the album?
No, that's Eddie Machete is the guitarist for First Jason, and he's actually an amazing musician. Studies with Joe Satriani. One of the reasons that he couldn't be here is because Joe Satriani is in Chicago this weekend. So Joe Satriani like invites Eddie.
I just saw another
sometimes on stage.
Satriani last.
Who's that?
Alex Skolnick.
Alex Skolnick.
Testament.
My God!
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd never happened to me before, but right in the middle of the set, he's playing a solo, and he finishes the solo, and he looks out in the audience. And I'm about 3 rows back, and he's like, and he throws the pick, and I catch it midair.
Wow.
And I was like,
He's amazing. I've always had a lot of respect for Alex Skolnick. I saw Testament at Wackenfest in Germany.
"Is really?"
And that's the first time I saw them live, and wow.
My first experience was.
I thought Chuck Billy was singing directly to me. It was like I was like, no, and I kept looking back, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, of course he wasn't. I was just in the crowd there, but it felt like that.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
First concert in a club I saw was Testament and Nuclear Assault
What?
with Sabotage.
Oh my God.
Was amazing, but I was 19, and it's the first time I went to a club, you know.
I wish I had gone to see stuff like that when I was 19, man. Wow.
Yeah, oh, you saw a lot.
Nuclear assault at that time, though, that must have been.
That's who I went to see, and it was great, and it was fun. And they only played 7 songs. As a musician, I thought, oh, well, all we got to do is work up 7 songs, and we can open for Testament, you know, it's 7 cat songs. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's just awesome, you know. It's short but sweet, you know. You see a band and
Well, they only give you that much time when you're opening
right,
for a
you know.
big name.
And then Sabotage played a long set, and they were like Dio or something, you know. They had the whole
Oh,
fog
I love
machines, and they were
Sabotage,
great, you
yeah.
know. Chris Olivia was, you know, he was a great guitar player, and just the band was great. And then Testament was, you know, Chuck Billy, yeah, shake the room with his voice. So amazing.
He's amazing.
Yeah, great stuff.
It just, wow.
Practice what you preach.
And they're out there performing now. All these bands. I know Testament is out there knocking them dead.
Yeah, they just finished the tour, and I went to
So many great bands are touring now. I mean, everything about metal right now is going in a great direction. You look at what happened with horror and metal, with Stranger Things, with the,
oh yeah, absolutely.
With the, you know, that thing, and so that charted that song, and then next thing you know, it's just popping
really
up.
a lot of
Ozzy Osbourne
film
is leading the way with that Patient Number 9.
Yeah,
I mean, wow. Just those collaborations with Tony Iommi, with Jeff Beck. I mean, it's just.
It's going,
I am so happy
It's
that
awesome.
I made the decision to be in metal and to be in like one of the, you know, for such a bunch of tough and dark music, but the people who are in metal are some of the warm-hearted, open-minded, open-eared, if that's a word.
Family.
Definitely gave me the time to get my voice. And then once I got my voice, they were like, you go.
Yeah.
And they invited me to things like that. Then I opened for Twisted and Ice Nine Kills, bro. 800 VIPs filled the Cabot Theater. Ice Nine Kills had me on stage with them. Now we just announced we're opening for Power Man 5000 at Spookala. You know, it just goes on. And we, every day, want to work harder. We got a new song called Look What You Did, based on the lyrics that are based on the words of Mama Voorhees in Friday the 13th. So it's just, you know, I'm just trying to look at these bands, and it's impossible not to be inspired, is all I can say.
Fantastic, Ari. I appreciate the opportunity to sit with you for a while on this lovely day. It's been so much fun.
Man.
I don't want to stop. You know,
What a great
so
interview.
good.
What a great interview. We are here at Haunted Pyramids in Lawndale, North Carolina, which is, if you want to experience a truly scary haunted attraction, then are you prepared to be scared? Tony Cook and his team are gonna scare you. So get out here and bring some vegan treats.
I did.
He did.
Yes,
Jeff
you did,
brought
Jeff.
me out.
Yes, you did.
Jeff brought me some yummy coconut water and maybe some carrot cake. Tasty stuff.
Nice.
The boy. Is he dead too?
Who?
The boy, Jason.
Jason?
In the lake, the one who attacked me, the one who pulled me underneath the water.
Ma'am, we didn't find any boy.
Then he's still there.
So you know this story. It's a story of a mother who loved her son so much she just lost her head, okay? So this song is a family song about mom, because we love mom so much. It's called Kill for Mother! Yeah! 1, 2, 3, 4! Brutal is my holy task. My only armor is a goalie mask. Eternal is my vengeance quest. Honor thy mother, kill all the rest. None who behold me can live.
All who trespass, their lives must kill. The devil avoids me as well. Because of all the souls I sent to hell. Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Jason kill for murder. Yeah, put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Jason kill for murder. Come on. Violent is my crusade. Deep in the blood of foes I wade. No matter what weapon I bear. The crimson chevron I always wear. The moment I cover my face. A metamorphosis shall take place. Destruction is my destiny. I kill for her who kill for me. Come on! Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Jason kill for murder. Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Put all the magic on the task. Jason kill for me. Come on, Ben!
Innocent Jason, my only child.